Sergeant Smith, how are you doing today?
I'm good. You called in about videotaping officers.
Yes, is it legal to videotape officers, Mr. Smith?
I guess I'd have to ask why you would want to know that.
Well, I would just, since you're a public servant and I want to understand, I think that's the only relevancy here, is me asking the question.
And now I'm still not understanding why.
Well, you don't need, I don't think you need to understand why.
Go ahead.
You don't need to understand why I'm asking a question. You're a public
Well,
servant.
you don't need to be rude about it either.
I'm not. I'm just exercising my rights and calling you on your job to be a public servant.
Oh, okay. You live in Greeley?
Will you answer the question, please?
Well, I need to know
You're
if
a
you
public
live in Greeley
servant.
first.
No, you're a public servant and I'm asking a question.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. When you can answer my question about where you live.
Well,
if you live
I'd like to have your
in
sergeant call me.
you might.
I want to have your sergeant call me. Mr. Smith, I want to have your... Why are you acting like my enemy? Why are you acting like my enemy? You're a public servant.
Did I ask you one particular question?
Are you-
live in Greeley?
I don't answer questions. I ask questions.
Okay. If
Your
you
job
live
is
in
you're a
Greeley,
public
then I
servant.
have no obligation to speak
You're a
to you.
public servant and you're required to answer questions.
Actually, no, I'm not.
You're not a public servant. What are you?
No, I am a public servant, but I'm
All
not
right.
required to answer any questions of someone who won't determine to me whether they're a citizen of the city that I serve.
What does a citizen mean? What is the definition of citizen?
Do you live in the city of Greeley? That's one question I'm asking, and then I will answer your question about videotaping.
No, I don't live in Greeley.
Okay, then you need to call the law enforcement agency that you live in, and they can answer that question.
Okay, concerning people in Greeley, is it lawful to videotape a police officer while he's on duty?
And since you do not live in the city of Greeley, then I would ask why you would ask me that question.
Well, I'm watching a lot of videos right now of police abusing their authorities, and there's many court cases pending right now where the government, the police, whoever is charging people with wiretapping charges. And so is it legal to videotape officer while he's on duty?
As long as he's out in the public view, there's nothing illegal about it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you answering the question. I don't know why it's so hard to answer questions. I mean, it's just a basic, simple question.
I'm not sure why you wouldn't tell me where you lived.
Well, I don't think that's really relevant. How is that relevant? I don't know that it's
It
relevant.
is relevant. If you're not a citizen of Greeley, I don't serve you as a public servant, and I have no obligation to answer your question.
Well, citizen, I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
I explained that to you. didn't
No, I
you?
think a citizen is when you... I think a citizen is when you contract with the government. When you sign, for example, when you sign your name to the capital letters on a driver's license. Yes, sir.
I answered your question, and our conversation is over. You have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being uncooperative.
Do you feel like you made any headways?
Well, it just goes to show that our government, is on the offensive whenever you ask them questions. They don't like to answer questions. There's no accountability there. They like to hide in the dark. They don't like to have their activities shown in the light.
I feel like he was deflecting.
Yeah.
He did not want to answer you, feeling as though, more like a child, I don't have to answer you if you don't live under my authority.
Right. And he's wondering if I'm a citizen. Well, if a citizen, in their eyes, to my knowledge, is a citizen of the United States Federal Corporation. When you contract with them, when you sign to a licensed Social Security card, birth certificate, you're contracting with them, you're becoming a citizen of a corporation. And that's what he wants to know, is if that's what officers always want to know, if you're in contract with them. And that's the only way that they can have any authority over you, is if you're within their jurisdiction of the corporation under Uniform Commercial Code rather than common law. To my understanding, Uniform Commercial Code is all these acts that were passed illegally for commerce. When you drive, you're doing commerce. When you're traveling, you're under the Constitution and common law. So they want to know if you're going to contract with them, if you want to stand under their authority, which I don't consent to contract. And that's what they're always trying to get you to do, is to contract with them.
As a member of the Brothwell family, do you feel like they're being too intrusive, trying to ask you questions, trying to get you to answer questions? Do you feel like they're being intrusive, like that's any of their business?
Well, like I say, everything they do, they operate in the legal system, which anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So that's where they operate on, is making money for the corporation. And so when they're asking you questions, they're trying to, I'm just, thinking of all this stuff as I'm speaking, but basically they want to know if there's any way they can make money on you by asking you questions to see if they can incriminate you on anything. So now when you ask them questions, they get offensive, because one thing they can't stand is for people to understand who they really are, because they operate in the dark. They operate under the system of the corporation, and their whole goal is to make money on you, and their job is to make money for the corporation, to drag you through their system, to charge you fines and fees and all this other stuff that goes along with it, to keep you a slave to their system.
And as a member of the United States under the Constitution, what is your name?
Dwayne of the Brothwell family?
That's what I wanted to hear.
Well, I am Dwayne Brothwell, and what they will do, they will ask you what your name is, so they can type it in their computer and find your capital letter name, so that way they can see who you were when you were contracting with them before. But what they don't realize is that you're no longer contracting with them, because when you did it before, you were doing it out of ignorance. And now you've waken up, and now they still think that you're under their jurisdiction whenever they type in your name in the computer. They want to continue that contract with you.
Well, they don't want to be held accountable, and that was his thing. Is I got the sense that he did not want to be held accountable. So
Right.
he felt like if he could ask you questions to deflect from him and put it back on you, then he wouldn't be held accountable.
I did understand a little bit of what he was trying to say, but I didn't think it was really relevant. Regardless of whether I was in his jurisdiction as far as the city goes, because most cities have a lot of the same policies, and it's always good just to get a reply from a police department to see what their policies are, because we live right next to Greeley, so we're always there. It's very possible we can be within their jurisdiction.
Well, I would think the city that we're currently living in, it doesn't have its own police
Yeah,
force.
it's the sheriff department.
Standing
Garden
militia.
City is the sheriff. It's the Weld County Sheriff jurisdiction because they don't have a police department.
Well, I think I would rather be under the sheriff's jurisdiction than the police jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's possible with a sheriff like John Cook. You know, I'm sure that, you know, we're probably in a little better hands than
I would think they're a little more honest because they actually know laws more so than the Greeley Police Department, wouldn't you think?
You would think so, but I don't know that to be a fact.
Well, we need to find that out too, don't you think?
Yeah, I think we should call the sheriff's office and see what they have to say about it.
We need to have an open dialogue.
Yeah.
Anything
Okay.
else you'd like to add?
No.